What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing us a brand new episode of the 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below, the best gaming related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. RollerCoaster Tycoon really sparked an incredible genre of simulation games and kind of got a lot of other games made because of RollerCoaster Tycoon, that being like Zoo Tycoon and other games that were even spiritual successors to RollerCoaster Tycoon. But I want to talk about in this segment of the show what happened to RollerCoaster Tycoon, because it's been a little while since we saw a real continuation of this franchise, so let's talk about it. So guys, RollerCoaster Tycoon is a game in which looking back now, I absolutely loved this franchise. It was really cool just being able to it was a very chill game. You just sit there on your PC and you would just, of course, create an amusement park and kind of learn what it's like to run an amusement park, even though, of course, guys, it's all simulated and things of that nature. But it was really interesting and a really cool concept for a video game. A game in which that came out in 1999, that being the very first RollerCoaster Tycoon. And these games really, following, that first initial release, just created so much, an incredible amount of positive reception around this franchise. Now, what I will say is that RollerCoaster Tycoon 2, it came out in October of 2002, and it had 2 official expansion packs, which RollerCoaster Tycoon also had 2 expansion packs, and the thing about it was they consistently, it was one of those games, guys, that even though it was just a single player experience, there was so much to do and so much you could continue expanding upon your park and such that you could just keep on coming back. And it was really a really cool concept, obviously. And then RollerCoaster Tycoon 3 came out in October of 2004. And then, of course, the latest release, which of course was RollerCoaster Tycoon World. But that was released in November of 2016. So if you look at this, guys, between 99 and 2004, you had 3 RollerCoaster Tycoon games, and then a number of years later was when we got RollerCoaster Tycoon World, which I don't think was quite as good, of course, as the original 3, and I'm sure a lot of us are hoping to see a RollerCoaster Tycoon 4 in the future at some point or another. But really what happened in this franchise, guys, not only was really RollerCoaster Tycoon World, but I also think what might have been something somewhat negative is that Atari decided to go in this direction of making a lot of these games, RollerCoaster Tycoon games, based around mobile devices, the Nintendo 3DS, and amongst other places, but mainly mobile phones. So you had RollerCoaster Tycoon 3D, which of course was released for the Nintendo 3DS. RollerCoaster Tycoon 4 Mobile, of course, for mobile. Same thing, RollerCoaster Tycoon 3 Mobile. And then, of course, you had RollerCoaster Tycoon Classic, RollerCoaster Tycoon Touch, RollerCoaster Tycoon Adventures, and then most recently, RollerCoaster Tycoon Story, which came out in January of 2020 for iOS and Android mobile devices. So here's the thing, guys. A lot of these, though, what's cool about them is that RollerCoaster Tycoon Story, for example, is a free-to-play game, and it's actually not too bad of a game, to be honest with all of you, but I think most of us can agree that we really want to see a continuation of that being the RollerCoaster Tycoon, the main games, of course, in the series that you can play on PC. A RollerCoaster Tycoon 4, I think, could be really great, especially because when you look at it, even if you go back to RollerCoaster Tycoon World, that came out in November of 2016. I do believe that we are going to see continuations of this franchise at one point or another. That being said, though, Planet Coaster, guys, is a spiritual successor to RollerCoaster Tycoon 3, was developed and published by Frontier Developments for Microsoft Windows and was released worldwide on November 17, 2016. Frontier Developments had previously worked in the amusement park construction management genre with the Xbox port of RollerCoaster Tycoon, RollerCoaster Tycoon 3 Thrillville, Thrillville Off the Rails, and Zoo Tycoon. Several user-created roller coasters received media attention after footage of them were posted on various image boards and social media. The RollerCoaster Tycoon series spawned a popular internet meme based on the series of posts made in 2012 on 4chan featuring a slow ghost train track ride called Mr. Bones Wild Ride that took 4 in-game years to complete, leading the passengers in the game express, "I want to get off Mr. Bones Wild Ride." At the ride's conclusion, the passengers were then greeted by a skeleton prop with a top hat with a sign stating, "The ride never ends." Both phrases have become popular memes. So with that being said, guys, there's really no information that we have about the continuation of RollerCoaster Tycoon, simply because what you're mainly getting at this point in time are RollerCoaster Tycoon mobile games for the most part, that being like RollerCoaster Tycoon Story. Now in 2018, Atari Game Partners announced it was seeking equity crowdfunding via the Start Engine platform in order to develop a new game in the series. Titled RollerCoaster Tycoon Adventures, is adaptation of RollerCoaster Tycoon Touch and was released for the Nintendo Switch in Europe on November 28, 2018 and North America on December 13th. So a lot of these are spin-offs though, right? These are all spin-off games, whether you're talking the ones that went on Nintendo 3DS or if you're talking on the Switch, on the, of course, then on mobile devices, but they're not true continuations of the main series. And so I think the big question is, guys, is when will we see a continuation of the series? Where did it go wrong? I think RollerCoaster Tycoon World was probably that point where it kind of went downhill somewhat, but I think all it takes is one game to bring that series right back around, and I think it would be great for this time, especially with updated graphics and things of that nature. I think it would be absolutely incredible. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What would you guys want to see in a RollerCoaster Tycoon 4 extension and expansion of the main series? Let me know what you guys think, and for more RollerCoaster Tycoon content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. So we've talked on the YouTube channel about Saints Row already, and I wanted to talk about where is Saints Row 5 at this point, guys, because a lot of you, I'm sure, are very excited about the continuation of this franchise. So let's talk about it. In an article, guys, that was written by Robert Adams of Game Revolution, he says Saints Row 5 is coming, but it needs to go back to its roots. With the reveal of Saints Row 4 Nintendo Switch release, we mustn't forget that Saints Row 5 is also on the way. Volition has been hard at work creating the next great adventure of the Third Street Saints, but they have to be careful. Saints Row 5 must not repeat the mistakes of the games that came before it. Now, what made Saints Row great? At a casual glance, the Saints Row games look very similar to Grand Theft Auto. They do have a lot in common after all. Both franchises have you heading up a criminal empire. Both use liberal applications of violence as the solution to most problems. Both have their moments of drama and hilarity. It was, however, the differences that really highlighted the appeal of Saints Row and the anticipation for Saints Row 5. While Grand Theft Auto was mostly serious, Saints Row was mostly funny. The various GTA protagonists were largely grounded in reality, but the boss of the Third Street Saints powerbombed gang leaders into a garbage truck and promoted a branded energy drink. They're similar games, but different enough that each has its own unique appeal. And I agree with this 100%. They're very different. More, Grand Theft Auto is a little bit more serious, whereas Saints Row is a little bit goofier. What I will say, though, guys, is that I do think that Saints Row needs to, going back here to what he was saying before, was that it can't make the same mistakes the other games made, and I agree with that to a degree. I think the first Saints Row games, the first 3, were pretty good, and well put together. Now, Saints Row 4 and Saints Row Get Out of Hell, which was the expansion for Saints Row 4, I think obviously you want to kind of steer the ship back in the right direction with kind of going in line with those other first 3 games. Now, Grand Theft Auto has been wishy-washy with the comedy with some people, myself included, marking GTA 4 as a low point in the franchise for seemingly forgetting about the humor of the previous games. Saints Row has made a similar mistake, although this one was done from the other direction. There have always been silly side missions in games of this sort, but Saints Row really takes the cake. As an example, Saints Row 2 has you driving around town with a septic truck and literally shooting sewage at your enemies with an effort to cause property damage. That's about as lowbrow as comedy gets, but it's also a boatload of fun. So I agree with that, guys. I mean, it's goofier. It's way goofier than, say, GTA. It just is. To start, Saints Row 4 was really supposed to be a piece of DLC for the third game. The bankruptcy of THQ in the early 2010s led to an acquisition and a change of plans, stretching out a DLC's worth of content into a full game. It was not well thought out. Get through roughly 10% of the game's story, and the superpowers have essentially rendered vehicles and guns useless. You can never step into a car again and not be any worse for wear. Why even bother? It's like they forgot what kind of game this was supposed to be. And then a similar thing happened with Gat Out of Hell. Kinsey and Johnny Gat quite literally go to hell and take on magical powers, once again rendering firearms and vehicles essentially useless. Another Steelport reskin of sorts stretches out a DLC's worth of content into a full game. So look, Gat Out of Hell was they're far-fetched, guys. Obviously, Saints Row has been far-fetched, but they went to a whole new level with Gat Out of Hell, and I really think they need to kind of bring it back, reel everything a little bit more back in with Saints Row 5, in my opinion, because obviously at this point, guys, Saints Row 5 is on its way, and it's probably pretty deep in development at this point. We'll probably get, a trailer at some point, whether it be 2020 or 2021. Stepping back, I noticed the trend of the franchise's change in tone and wanted to take a look at Saints Row 2 to see just how far it had come. Sure, the PC port is a bit of a disaster, but it ran well enough that I was able to experience what many consider to be the pinnacle of the franchise. There's plenty of silly and crazy moments, but those weren't the main focus of the franchise. They're not aliens blowing up the earth. You're not traveling through time and meeting historical figures. You're a gang leader fighting for control of a city, wearing stylish clothes and driving souped-up cars. The dramatic aspects of Saints Row weren't the only things lost over the years. Lots of little features disappeared, and I sure hope they return in Saints Row 5. One of the criticisms I've seen voiced most often is the customization. Saints Row 2 had a stupidly complex customization system that let you wear several layers of clothing, allowing for the creation of a very unique character. The amount of variety available to the player was frankly insane. Saints Row 3 had a brand new engine, and the collapse of the company's publisher THQ likely resulted in some cutbacks. The customization options improved in some areas but got worse in others. You just had fewer options for decking out your character, and I hope that does come back in Saints Row 5, where you're able to, of course, soup out your character in a variety of different ways. That's what really made Saints Row very unique. Saints Row 5 will likely be another big step for the adventures of the Third Street Saints. Unlike the jump from Saints Row 2 to Saints Row 3, Volition will hopefully not have to deal with their publisher going bankrupt. The success of the previous games will hopefully mean that the devs can execute and create a vision without having to worry about cutting corners in the areas that made Saints Row great. My big concern is the effect that the more out there games are going to have on the future of Saints Row 5. Are we going to get another traditional gangster story with a lot of silly humor and the occasional crazy side mission? Or are we going to be fighting alien lizard people on Jupiter? I hope Volition takes a good look at what they've made over the years and sees how they've strayed so far from where they've first started. I'm looking forward to more silliness in Saints Row 5. So look, as someone who really enjoyed at least the first few games in this franchise, I'd like to see Volition kind of stick to what worked in the past, right? I mean, some silliness is fine and all of that. I wouldn't mind actually them taking things a little bit more seriously this time around, kind of taking a little bit more of a serious approach, even though we still want that humor and that silliness in the game. But I think, to a degree, I think we also want to see things a little bit more grounded, not so unrealistic in a variety of different ways. But with that being said, guys, I want to hear from all of you. What do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comment section below. What is it that you want to see in Saints Row 5 the most? For me, it comes down to having some silliness, but maybe a little bit more seriousness at the same time. Because, man, it got so far off track with Saints Row Gat Out of Hell. That's what I want to see. I also want to see, obviously, multiplayer modes, co-op modes, and of course a full fleshed out main story. Make it a full package that we all can just continue coming back to. Have it on the next generation of consoles. I think you got yourself a pretty solid game that's in the works here, but we'll have to kind of wait and see. And I'll keep all of you guys up to date as further information comes out. But like I said, let me know what you guys want to see in the title, Saints Row 5, if that's what it's going to be called. And for more Saints Row 5 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. With the delay of Dying Light 2, and who knows if we're going to have more delays with this game and other titles that are coming out later in 2020 because of the pandemic going on in our world right now, it'll be very unfortunate if a lot of these games end up getting pushed back even further because of development delays and things of that nature. But what I wanted to do, guys, was talk about everything that we know so far about Dying Light 2, because I know there's so many of us who are really excited about this sequel to the very original and exciting Dying Light. And so let's talk about everything that we know so far about the game. Let's talk about it. So Dying Light 2, guys, this was an article that was written by Joe Knoop and Morgan Park of PC Gamer. Dying Light was the little zombie game that could, and Dying Light 2, which we got a new taste of at E3 2019, looks even better. Techland's zombie parkour darling has left a lasting impression in the years since its release. In 2016, it also got the following DLC, which let you roam an expansive countryside while swooshing the undead beneath an armored buggy, and even a Battle Royale-esque spin-off later on. That's why it's so refreshing to see Techland tackling a proper sequel. Announced at E3 2018 with a snazzy trailer, Techland hasn't been shy about sharing some key details on the changes coming to the apocalypse. So at the Microsoft E3 2019 conference, Dying Light 2 originally gave a spring 2020 release window. In January 2020, Techland announced that the sequel has been delayed and did not give an estimate of a new release window. So look, guys, right off the bat, coming off of Dying Light, and Dying Light 2 actually does look better than the first one, even though obviously we haven't been able to play the game and things of that nature, but it looks like they understand what they did right and what they did wrong and what they can do better moving forward, and it looks like they're going to try to kind of merge all of the positives into one game here, and Dying Light 2 really could be something special at this point. Now, it says a lot that the first voice you hear in Dying Light 2's E3 gameplay trailer is that of Chris Avellone. If that name sounds familiar, think Knights of the Old Republic 2, Pillars of Eternity, and Fallout New Vegas, to name just an inch of the amazing projects he's been a part of. Avellone has worked as a lead writer or designer, sometimes both, on a whole host of our favorite RPGs. He's become one of the industry's most coveted storytellers, and he's a key part of Dying Light 2. Lead designer Timon Metella discussed Avallone's involvement with Digital Foundry, saying the writer was involved from the beginning to help the team define a modern Dark Ages. It's a setting that presents a world where the civilization has gone back to the Dark Ages, Metella told Digital Foundry. Right now, everything is brutal, primal, and merciless. Chris Avellone helped us to define that world, define the rules that govern it, and help define the factions that operate in the city. Avellone is joined by at least one member of the Witcher 3 writing team, Carolina Stachura, known for her work on the Bloody Baron questline. Now, those specifics on Dying Light 2's plot haven't been revealed. The developers have given us some broad strokes of what we can expect. Set 15 years after the first game, your mission is to retrieve an object which could change the future of humankind. A source of clean water, a way to turn the Wi-Fi back on. Your guess is as good as ours. But you're not alone in this grim locale. Far from it, actually. The city is full of multiple human factions, each of which will vie for your assistance, cooperation, or death. Now, they say that Dying Light 2's story is around 20 hours, but it has more than 100 hours of total content. And it's very hard to measure in an open world game how long it actually takes to complete the game because of the things that happen between points A and points B of a quest. So basically, it's up to you how you play it, said Metella. I imagine this metric is also bolstered by Dying Light 2's diverging story choices and the natural replayability that comes from choosing a different path. Now, I'm wondering how open world this game will be. If it's going to be like a semi-open world or a full-blown open world, it'll be really interesting to see as the game gets closer and closer to coming out. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about that. Now, Techland says it has doubled the parkour options this time around. In the demo, you can see this with Aiden's wall running, but there are also more subtle moves. Aiden can seemingly vault through the tops of doorways, slide under tables, and use a loose pipe as a pole vault. And one of Dying Light 2's big changes is how the city around you will be transformed both physically and tonally once you ally with one of several groups. During E3, our own Steven saw a hands-off demo that showed this branching world building at play. A group of NPCs have managed to gain control over a water source, putting an air of uncertainty over the future of the surrounding communities. The Peacekeepers, a group of law and order obsessed folks, sent out an emissary to see what they could do to get the water for their people. But because this is a computer game, the emissary has gone missing, and it's up to you to figure things out. More practically, depending on which faction you choose, you'll see corresponding banners and colors splash a bit of life or misery into the region. The Peacekeepers will unfurl their banners over buildings, erect a bunch of outposts, and build walls. Mectella was quick to clarify that your struggles won't always be between just two factions, and it won't always be as simple as a join us or die dialogue prompt, meaning achieving or failing a mission objective might result in some unexpected power shifts. As is usually the case in post-apocalypse tales, there's always a chance that you'll just make things worse. So look, guys, I really think that overall what they're potentially going for here, not only with like story choices, they want this to be a very diverse world, like many ways that you can kind of move around within the world. You can kind of take your time with many different missions, really explore. And so that's why I'm feeling like this is going to be a pretty, this could be a pretty big world that you can actually explore in. And I hope it is, because this is a franchise and a game that I'm really excited for. And I really want to be able to dive in and be able to kind of do as much as possible within this world as far as coming back to this franchise in a way in which you're not only able to play a campaign, but like multiplayer modes as well as co-op modes to continue bringing you back to the franchise. And I think that's exactly what Techland is trying to go for. Now, speaking to official Xbox Magazine, lead designer Timon Mectella explained how choice reversal isn't a simple reset button. It's not like you can go back to the moment of that decision and just change it, Mectella said. You need to do some additional stuff, like complete a couple of extra missions to fix the things that you think you wronged. But apart from those rare instances, all of the decisions are permanent. Now, Dying Light 2's map is 4 times bigger than the original. But what good is all the player-driven choice in the world if you don't have somewhere badass to hop around? Dying Light 2 switches out its predecessor's grimy favela for the aforementioned modern Dark Ages European city 4 times larger than the original map. It looks closer in style to the tighter Old Town portion of the original Dying Light than the wider slums, but with everything cranked to 11. There's a whole mess of banners marking faction territories, windmills covered in solar panels grown with years of disrepair, and some crumbling clock towers. Some soldiers, like the Peacekeepers, wear armor that looks like the Knights of the Round Table meet Mad Max. Despite the increased population in this city compared to Heron, nature has still reclaimed portions of the buildings and the streets. Dying Light 2 is definitely building off of the original strong parkour gameplay. Aside from the typical running, wall running, jumping, sliding, and climbing, Mectella has said there are twice as many parkour moves. And that is very exciting, that there's just going to be so many more ways that you can traverse this world, guys. I think that's something that's going to really be unique. And it's already unique for Dying Light. I mean, not only for the parkour elements to this, it's kind of like the first of its kind, or, it's very different. And that's what I think a lot of people are really liking about the first Dying Light and why we're so excited about Dying Light 2. Speaking of combat, the same first-person melee looks like it's still our primary way of bashing heads in. Just like the last game, it looks like you can combine weapons with certain elements to add a little flavor to your swing. We've seen tomahawk axes with what look like electrical cords plus a street sign cut in half. So it seems like there's a lot more crafting ability, guys, as well. And that's something that's going to be interesting. The biggest thing, though, for me is we haven't seen Dying Light 2's night yet, but there are dark zones. The original game's awesome day and night cycle mechanic is back, but instead of swerving around the undead on the bright streets, most of them have clustered together in dark zones, infected buildings with shoulder-to-shoulder zombies. It's enough to make the Saturday grocery shopper in me flinch. You're welcome to pilfer the place for extra special loot, but make a noisy misstep and you'll be fleeing faster than your parents' house party. Of course, you can wait until the nightmare to do all this. It's just that your undead guests will be, everywhere. And so look, guys, all in all that I really want from Dying Light 2 is a full package. And obviously we want it to be bigger and better than the first one. That's easier said than done, but I personally would like to see, multiplayer modes, obviously a full-fledged story that we can traverse the world and put in, hundreds of hours into this game, whether we're just exploring, the streets, whether we're, want to do a bunch of different types of parkour, learning different stuff. That's all ways that you can kind of connect with the franchise. Same thing with like co-op modes as well. And I think a multiplayer, like a updated and even better multiplayer experience will bring people back to this game continuously. And that's what I think we're all really excited about. It's a different type of game, guys, obviously, than really anything out there on the market. And we do know a lot of information, but there's still so much that's kind of up in the air and things that we don't know about this franchise, or I should say the continuation of this franchise in Dying Light 2. It'll be very interesting to say the least, and I can't wait to give you guys more information as it comes out. But let me know what you guys think and what do you guys want to see the most in Dying Light 2. Let me know in that comment section below. And for more Dying Light 2 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.